Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is time for another true crime video yet again, and today we will be talking about the unsolved curry murder that shook Singapore. Singapore is one of the safest countries in the world, and that's why when this happened in 1984, it shook the entire nation. Ayakanu Marithamuthu was an Indian man who moved to Singapore around the late 70s to the early 80s. Along with him came his wife and three kids, his mother-in-law, his three brothers-in-law, as well as their wives. They all settled near Orchard Road and worked as caretakers to make both ends meet. However, this was particularly difficult to Ayakanu's family because him and his wife had three kids to feed, clothe, and send to school. And speaking of his wife, I chose not to name her or any of her family members in this video for legal purposes. Now, I've heard that their family is quite defensive or sensitive in regards to these videos and have filed lawsuits in the past. So I hope you guys understand. Now back to our story. Aside from the financial struggles, life was not easy for this family, and it was because of Ayakanu himself. He would often drink, and once he got intoxicated, he would often get physical or abusive towards his wife. Sadly, domestic disputes are a common thing in their household, almost as if it were part of their routine. After receiving a beating from Ayakanu, his wife would go to her mother or brothers to hide. And once Ayakanu comes to his senses, he would come pick her up and beg for her forgiveness, which she would give almost instantaneously. However, this would all come to a halt. On December 18th, 1983, Ayakanu's wife reported him as missing to the authorities. She told the police officers that he had left for Malaysia a few days prior, particularly on December 12th, and had plans to gamble at a casino. However, he hadn't returned and she could not get in contact with him. Now, the police didn't really see this as an urgent matter because Ayakanu was a grown man at this point and he could probably take care of himself and make decisions if he wanted to go back or not. So they never really investigated his whereabouts. However, the weird thing about this was that his wife never asked for updates, nor did she even try to look for him after reporting this missing persons report. Now years go by and Ayakanu still had not returned home. Yes, years. It was as if he had been forgotten until January 9th, 1987, when an anonymous informant went to the police to report something very unusual and very unsettling. Now, according to this informant, they were at a bar when they overheard a group of people talking. One was allegedly boasting about how he murdered and dismembered a man named Ayakanu. And the most disturbing part of this was that this informant also heard that man say that he cooked up his victim into a curry. And at first, the investigator thought that this was a bit far-fetched because, as I have mentioned, Singapore is a very safe place. In fact, they only have one serial killer on record. That's how safe Singapore is. But this investigator thought, why would someone make something like this up? There has got to be more to it. So he forwarded this information to the Crime Investigation Department and they gave him the go-ahead to conduct an investigation. Now, the authorities first went to, of course, Ayakanu's wife, who was a caregiver at a local church. And upon questioning her, all she said was that he went to Malaysia to gamble, never returned, and then she filed for a missing persons report. Now, they did find it weird how she made zero effort to find her husband, especially due to the fact that she had three kids with him. Three kids who are now fatherless. And looking further to what might have happened, it turns out that Ayakanu had never left Singapore. There was no record of him going to Malaysia nor anywhere else. They also talked to various people in the family's life, like their friends, their church members, and even Ayakanu's former employer, or his employer during the time that he went missing. Now, his employer said that Ayakanu filed for leave on December 21st, 1984, and never showed up to work again. The employer also confirmed via attendance records that even though Ayakanu filed for leave on the 21st, he actually stopped showing up to work even earlier than that. This investigation lasted for 2 months, and the authorities interviewed a total of 30 people close to the family, most of which noted an issue in the household, domestic violence, and Ayakanu's drinking. A lot of these people have noted the fact that Ayakanu had always been violent towards his wife, and that her family, as well as the rest of their community, were well aware of this. Now, a few of them might have even insinuated that this could have been the reason why he disappeared in the first place. So the police looked further into the wife's family and quickly figured out that one of her three brothers served time in prison for robbery and one was a butcher. It completely lined up with what the informant told them, that this man at the bar was bragging about killing a guy named Ayakanu, bringing him into the kitchen before dismembering him. On March 23rd, 1987, the family was brought in for questioning, and of course, they all denied allegations against them. This interrogation went on for 2 days until finally, one of the brothers cracked and confessed to everything. According to his timeline of events, Ayakanu and the three brothers were drinking at home in their living room, and not long after getting intoxicated, they started to have a heated argument. Now, this argument soon turned into a physical altercation, and it was 3 against 1, the three brothers against Ayakanu. It got so heated that they soon started beating him with an iron rod. And once they realized that he was dead and that they could all go to prison for this, they carried his body to the kitchen, where they started to dismember him and then cooked his remains with what would soon turn out to be curry. They then put this curry into multiple black trash bags and threw him away. On March 27th, Ayakanu's wife and her three brothers were arrested for his murder. The following day, the mother and the sister-in-law were also apprehended. However, as there was no concrete evidence and this was mostly based on hearsay, all charges were dropped and all 6 suspects were released. And I am not sure when this happened, but the three brothers were re-arrested at some point and were detained until June of 1991. Now, this case is considered unsolved because although the brothers did serve time in prison, no one was really ever found guilty for the murder of Ayakanu. There are also a lot of theories regarding this case, the first one being Ayakanu was never murdered, and that he simply ran off to start a new life someplace else. The second theory is that all of this was true and that the only reason why the family got away with this was because there was no body found ever. Other people say that they are completely innocent and one of the brothers was just manipulated or coerced into making a false confession. And one theory, or I guess rumor, was that when Ayakanu's remains were cooked, this curry was then served in church. But this is just so far-fetched. I mean, even if they did this to Ayakanu, I don't think they would feed him to churchgoers, so I personally do not believe this rumor at all. And let me just emphasize that again, them serving Ayakanu curry to churchgoers is nothing but a rumor. I've seen a video covering this case saying that that's what actually happened. And people in the comment section, especially Singaporeans, were really angry. And that's why as creators, we really have to be careful with the content that we put out there. This is also the reason why I always tell you guys if I'm not sure about something, because I'd rather admit that I wasn't able to confirm a few details than to share something that might not be true. I mean, these are real stories, real events that happen to real people, and that's why it's called true crime. So if you see or hear anyone spreading false rumors or false information about these cases, or even if it's just an innocent mistake, it really helps if you correct creators. I mean, I would personally appreciate that, and I'm sure other viewers will as well. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much all that I have for this case. As usual, I would really love to hear your thoughts on this, especially your theories as to what might have happened. Personally, I think it's possible that he could have just ran away and started a new life, but it's also possible that he was murdered, then cooked, and then put into bags before being discarded. So let me know what you guys think. And should there be any other case that you would like for me to cover on this channel, please let me know by leaving a comment. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys on my next video.